The bonding ceremony had been beautiful and terrifying. Jiho wore formal clothes that Yuna helped him choose. He stood before hundreds of Valkyrie nobles and spoke words in their language that Daehyun taught him. Queen Nari placed a silver band on his wrist, marking him as her life-bonded guardian. Now, 3 weeks later, Jiho still felt completely out of place. He stood in the corner of a grand dining hall, watching Queen Nari host a state dinner. Dozens of important Valkyrie officials sat at the long table. They ate strange foods and discussed politics in their flowing language. Jiho understood maybe 1 word in 10. Daehyun stood near the queen, as always. He whispered in her ear occasionally, probably translating important points. Yuna had taught Jiho that Daehyun was more than an advisor. He was the queen's oldest friend, loyal beyond question. But not everyone here was loyal. Some nobles smiled at Queen Nari's face, but whispered against her behind closed doors. They thought her alliance with humans was weakness. They believed the Valkyrie should stand alone, proud and pure. A server approached the queen with a crystal glass filled with dark blue liquid, traditional Valkyrie wine, Jiho had learned. Queen Nari reached for it. Something felt wrong. Jiho could not explain it. Maybe it was his medic's training, always watching for signs of danger. Maybe it was instinct. But something about that glass bothered him. He moved forward without thinking. His hand shot out and grabbed the glass before Queen Nari could take it. Everyone at the table went silent. "What are you doing?" Daehyun demanded. Jiho brought the glass to his nose and sniffed. The wine smelled normal, but there, a faint chemical odor underneath. And the color was slightly off, just a shade lighter than it should be. "Don't drink this," Jiho said. Queen Nari looked at him carefully. "Why?" "It smells wrong. The color is wrong. Something's been added to it." A noble across the table laughed. "The human thinks he can identify poison? Our scanners check everything that enters this room." "Then let me test it," Jiho said. He pulled out a simple testing strip from his pocket, the kind human medics use for checking chemicals. He dipped it in the wine. The strip turned bright red. "Poison," Jiho said quietly. "A lot of it." The room erupted in chaos. Guards rushed forward. The server who brought the wine tried to run, but was caught immediately. Daehyun grabbed the glass from Jiho's hands and stared at it in horror. "How did you know?" Queen Nari asked. Her voice was calm, but Jiho could see fear in her eyes. "Your scanners look for known poisons," Jiho explained. "This must be something new, or hidden in a way they don't detect. But I could smell the chemical, and see the color change. Basic observation." Daehyun looked at the testing strip. "What is this?" "Simple human technology. We use it in the field when our equipment fails," Jiho shrugged. "Sometimes the old ways work better." Queen Nari stood slowly. She looked at Jiho with an expression he could not read. Then she bowed her head slightly, to him. Everyone gasped. Queens did not bow to anyone. "You have saved my life twice now," she said. Perhaps the life bond chose correctly. Later that night, Jiho met with Yuna and his old friend Minho in a secure room. Minho worked in human intelligence now, gathering information about threats to the Alliance. "This is bad," Minho said, looking at the data on his tablet. That poison was sophisticated. Whoever made it knew exactly how to fool Valkyrie's scanners. "Inside job?" Yuna asked. "Has to be," Minho confirmed. "Someone high up in the court. They're working with the Threxians, trying to kill Queen Nari and blame it on diplomatic poisoning. Start a war between humans and Valkyrie." Jiho felt sick. "Who would do that?" "We're working on it," Minho said. "But be careful. Whoever it is, they have resources and patience. They'll try again." Over the following days, Jiho stayed close to Queen Nari. He watched everything with his medic's eye, looking for anything unusual. He carried his simple human tools everywhere, testing food and drink with basic methods that Velkari technology overlooked. One evening, Queen Nari asked to speak with him privately. They stood on a balcony overlooking the planet below. "You must think our technology is foolish," she said, "that we rely too much on it. Your technology is amazing, but every system has weaknesses. Sometimes, a simple solution is better." "Why did you fight on the battlefield?" Queen Nari asked suddenly. "You are a medic. You could have stayed safe." "My job is to save lives," Jiho said. "Can't do that from safety." She smiled. "We are alike, you and I. I could rule from this station, never seeing battle. But how can I ask my soldiers to die for me if I won't stand with them?" "Is that why you disguised yourself?" "Yes, I wanted to know what my people truly face. I wanted to earn their respect, not just inherit it." She looked at him. "You understand this. You didn't have to save me, but you did anyway." "Every life matters," Jiho said. "That's what humans believe." "Velkari believe in strength," Queen Nari said quietly. "The strong survive, the weak are left behind. Compassion is also strength." Before Jiho could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed. Daehyun burst onto the balcony. "Your Majesty, we've discovered the conspiracy. They're moving now. They know we're close to exposing them." "Who?" Queen Nari demanded. "Commander Hyunwoo," Daehyun said grimly. "He leads the military faction that opposes the Human Alliance. We found communications between him and Threxian agents. He's planning something at tomorrow's ceremony." Tomorrow was the joint military ceremony where human and Velkari forces would celebrate their alliance. Hundreds of people would attend, both species gathering in one place. "It's the perfect target," Minho said, arriving behind Daehyun. "Maximum casualties, maximum political damage." Queen Nari's face hardened. "Jiho, I will need you tomorrow, more than ever." "I'll be there," Jiho promised. That night, he could not sleep. He cleaned his medical equipment and checked his simple human tools, testing strips, basic first aid supplies, things that seemed primitive next to Velkari technology. But tomorrow, those primitive tools might be all that stood between peace and war. Tomorrow the conspiracy would make its move, and Jiho would be ready. The ceremony ground was packed with people. Human soldiers stood beside Velkari warriors in neat rows. Flags from both worlds flew in the artificial breeze. Queen Nari stood on a raised platform with human ambassador Sora and several high-ranking officers. Jiho stood 3 steps behind the queen, his eyes constantly scanning the crowd. Everything seemed normal, too normal. Jiho's instincts screamed at him that something was wrong. He touched the silver band on his wrist, the mark of his life bond, and tried to calm his racing heart. The speeches began. Ambassador Sora spoke about friendship between species. A Velkari general talked about shared sacrifice. The crowd applauded at the right moments. Jiho watched the faces around him, looking for anything suspicious. Then he saw it. In the crowd, a group of Velkari soldiers stood too stiffly. Their eyes were wrong, too focused. One of them reached for something at his belt. "Get down!" Jiho shouted. He threw himself at Queen Nari, knocking her to the ground, as the first explosion ripped through the ceremony area. The blast tore apart the platform. People screamed. More explosions followed, one after another, tearing through the crowd. Jiho covered Queen Nari with his body as debris rained down. His ears rang from the noise. When he looked up, he saw chaos. The attackers wore Threxian armor and carried Threxian weapons. They fired into the panicking crowd, killing humans and Velkari alike. But Jiho recognized a face under one helmet. Commander Hyunwoo. "It's the conspiracy," Jiho yelled to Daehyun, who was pulling Queen Nari to safety. "They're dressed as Threxians to frame them." Another explosion hit the defensive barriers. The high-tech energy shields flickered and died. The attackers advanced, firing freely now. Human soldiers and Velkhari warriors tried to fight back, but they were confused and disorganized. Officers were shouting conflicting orders. The ceremony had become a massacre. Jiho's training took over. He was a medic, but he was also a soldier. He grabbed a fallen weapon and started firing back at the attackers. "Rally on me," he shouted. "Form a defensive line." Maybe it was his voice. Maybe it was desperation. But soldiers started listening. Humans and Velkhari moved together, creating a shield wall with their bodies to protect the wounded. Jiho directed them, using basic tactics he had learned in training. "Short bursts, conserve ammunition, wounded fall back to me." He dropped his weapon and went to work. His medic skills became crucial. He moved from person to person, stopping bleeding, stabilizing injuries. He used his simple human tools because the Velkhari medical equipment had been sabotaged too. Tourniquets, pressure bandages, basic medicine. And it worked. Other medics, seeing what Jiho did, copied him. They abandoned their broken technology and used simple methods. The wounded stopped dying. The defensive line held. Minho appeared, leading a group of human intelligence officers. "We have evidence," he shouted, holding up a data device. "Broadcasting now." He activated the device. Suddenly, every screen in the ceremony ground lit up. Security footage played, showing Commander Hyunwoo meeting with Threxian agents. Audio recordings of him planning the attack. Evidence of his conspiracy shown to everyone present. The attackers hesitated. Their plan was exposed. They were not Threxians. They were traitors. "Surrender," Daehyun commanded, his voice amplified across the grounds. "You are exposed. Lay down your weapons." Some did. Others fought harder, knowing they were finished either way. The battle intensified. Commander Hyunwoo pushed through his own soldiers, heading straight for the platform where Queen Nari stood. His face was twisted with rage. "If I cannot have the Empire, no one will," he screamed. He moved incredibly fast. Before anyone could stop him, he was on the platform. He grabbed Queen Nari, putting a blade to her throat. The same kind of blade that had nearly killed her in battle. "Everyone stand down," Hyunwoo demanded, "or she dies. She has made us weak with her human alliance. She has betrayed everything we are." Jiho stood 10 meters away. Guards had weapons trained on Hyunwoo, but they could not shoot without hitting the queen. Daehyun was frozen, his face pale. "Step aside, human," Hyunwoo spat at Jiho. "This doesn't concern you." "She is my life bond," Jiho said calmly. "Everything that concerns her concerns me." He took a step forward. Hyunwoo pressed the blade harder against Queen Nari's neck. A thin line of blood appeared. One more step and she dies. Jiho took another step, and then he did something stupid. Something so unexpected that Hyunwoo could not anticipate it. He fell. Jiho collapsed to the ground like he had been shot, falling face first onto the platform. Hyunwoo blinked in confusion. Everyone did. No shots had been fired. "Is he dead?" someone asked. Hyunwoo relaxed slightly, focusing on the dead human at his feet. It was a mistake. Jiho's eyes snapped open. He rolled, grabbing Hyunwoo's legs and pulling them out from under him. The commander fell backward, his grip on Queen Nari breaking. She twisted away from him. Jiho threw himself on top of Hyunwoo, grappling with him. The blade came up, flashing in the light. Jiho tried to grab it, but Hyunwoo was stronger. The blade plunged down. Pain exploded in Jiho's chest. He gasped as Hyunwoo ripped the blade out and raised it again. But guards were already there, pulling Hyunwoo away, restraining him. Daehyun reached Jiho first, catching him as he fell. "Medic!" Daehyun screamed. "Get a medic!" "I am the medic," Jiho said weakly. He looked down at the wound in his chest. It was bad. Very bad. Blood pumped out with each heartbeat, his own blood this time. Queen Nari knelt beside him, her hands pressing against the wound. Her face was pale. "Stay with me," she commanded. "That is an order." "Yes, Your Majesty," Jiho whispered. His vision was getting dark. Around them, the battle was ending. The conspirators were surrendering or dying. Human and Velkhari soldiers stood together, victorious. The alliance had held. But Jiho was dying. "Get him to medical," Queen Nari ordered. "Now." They lifted him carefully. The last thing Jiho saw before darkness took him was the Queen's face above him, determined and fierce. "You will not die," she said. "I forbid it." Then, there was nothing but black. Jiho woke up slowly. Everything felt strange. His body felt different, lighter somehow. He opened his eyes and saw white ceiling panels above him. Medical equipment surrounded his bed, both human and Velkhari technology working together. Yuna sat in a chair beside him, her head down, sleeping. She looked exhausted. "Yuna!" Jiho's voice came out rough and weak. Her head snapped up. "Jiho! Oh, thank everything, you're awake." She jumped up and pressed a button. "He's conscious. Someone tell the Queen." "How long?" Jiho asked. 3 days. You were dying. The blade hit your lung and nicked your heart. No human medicine could save you." Yuna's eyes filled with tears. But the Queen, she did something. She used forbidden technology. Before Jiho could ask what that meant, the door opened. Queen Nari entered, still wearing medical robes over her formal dress. She looked like she had not slept in days. Daehyun followed her, along with several doctors. "You're awake," Queen Nari said. She sounded relieved. "What did you do?" Jiho asked. The Queen sat in the chair Yuna had vacated. "I saved your life, just as you saved mine twice. It is only fair." One of the doctors, an older Velkhari woman, spoke. "We used ancient technology, banned because it is dangerous. It creates a permanent biological link between two people. We used my blood to repair your damaged organs and strengthen your immune system." Jiho stared at Queen Nari. "Your blood?" "Yes, you have part of me in you now. Velkhari healing abilities. Your wounds will recover faster. You may live longer than a normal human." She met his eyes. "I know I did not ask permission, but you were dying, and the life bond is sacred. I could not let my guardian die protecting me." "You saved me," Jiho said softly. "We are even now," Queen Nari replied with a small smile. Over the next 2 weeks, Jiho recovered quickly. Too quickly, the doctor said. His Velkhari enhanced healing was working. The wound in his chest closed and scarred faster than any human injury should. While he healed, the political situation changed dramatically. Commander Hyunwoo and his conspirators faced trial. The evidence Minho gathered proved their guilt completely. They had worked with Threxian agents, but the Threxian government itself had not authorized the attacks. It had been rogue elements on both sides, trying to restart the war. The real Threxian leaders reached out with apologies and peace offers. They were tired of fighting too. They wanted what everyone wanted: peace. Ambassador Sora met with Threxian representatives. Slowly, carefully, a new three-way alliance started to form. When Jiho was finally released from medical care, Queen Nari called him to her private office. Daehyun was there, and Yuna, and Minho, and several other humans, and Velkhari he did not recognize. "Sit," Queen Nari said, gesturing to a chair. "We have much to discuss." "Am I in trouble?" Jiho asked. "No, you are being honored." She stood and walked to the window. "The conspiracy's exposure has forced changes. My people see now that isolation makes us weak, that working with other species makes us stronger. They see that your primitive human ways saved lives when our technology failed. We work better together," Daehyun added. "This is clear now." "I want you to stay as my advisor," Queen Nari said. "Not just ceremonially. I want you to help me understand the human perspective, to remind me that sometimes the simple answer is the right one. I'm still just a medic, Jiho protested. You are much more than that, Queen Nari said firmly, and I am creating a new tradition. From now on, every Valkyrie ruler will have an advisor from another species, someone to challenge our assumptions, someone to show us different ways of thinking. Yuna grinned. I'm being assigned to the permanent diplomatic mission here. We're building something real now. And I'm heading up joint intelligence operations, Minho added. Humans and Valkyrie working together to stop threats before they start. Jiho looked at all of them, at Queen Nari, who had gone from a wounded soldier to someone he genuinely respected, at Daehyun, who had gone from suspicious to accepting, at his friends, building bridges between species. Okay, he said, I'll stay, but I want to keep training medics, both species, teaching them that the old ways still matter. Agreed, Queen Nari said. In fact, I want you to establish a program. Train mixed teams, human and Valkyrie medics working together. 6 months later, Jiho stood in a training facility, watching new recruits practice. They used both human and Valkyrie techniques. Simple tourniquets next to advanced healing technology, basic first aid combined with alien medicine. A young Valkyrie student struggled with a human bandage. Why do we learn this? We have better technology. Because technology can fail, Jiho explained patiently. Scanners can be fooled, power can be cut, but knowledge and skill, those never fail you. Sometimes a simple bandage saves a life when nothing else will. The student nodded, understanding. Queen Nari visited later that day. She wore simpler clothes now, not always formal robes. She walked among the students, talking with them. They respected her, not because she was queen, but because she had earned it. She found Jiho watching the training from a balcony. She stood beside him in comfortable silence. Do you ever regret it? Queen Nari asked. That day on the battlefield when you ran to help me? Jiho thought about everything that had happened. The fear, the pain, the responsibility, but also the friendships, the peace they were building, the lives they were saving. No, he said honestly. I'm a medic. Saving lives is what I do. I just didn't expect it to change everything. Sometimes, one small act of compassion ripples outward, Queen Nari said. You showed mercy to a wounded soldier. That mercy changed the course of empires. They watched the students below, human and Valkyrie working together, learning from each other. What would you tell your past self, Queen Nari asked, before that battle? I'd tell him that sometimes the person you save isn't just a soldier. They're the key to everything, and that being human means never leaving someone behind, no matter who they are. And I would tell my past self to trust in kindness, Queen Nari added. That strength is not just about power, it's also about compassion. A message came through on Jiho's communicator. He read it and sighed. Another request. A species from an unexplored sector heard about what happened here. They want Earth's help negotiating peace. Will you go? Queen Nari asked. Do I have a choice? Always. You are free to refuse. Jiho thought about it for a moment. Then he smiled. I guess I'll need to pack my medkit again. Queen Nari laughed. I will send Daehyun with you, and a diplomatic team. You won't face this alone. Together, Jiho said. Together, Queen Nari agreed. They stood on the balcony, watching the sun set over the training ground. Below them, humans and Valkyrie worked side by side. Above them, ships from 3 different species moved peacefully through space. One medic had saved 1 soldier. That simple act of human compassion had sparked something larger. It had shown that differences could be strengths, that working together was better than standing alone, that kindness could change the galaxy. Jiho touched the silver band on his wrist, the mark of the life bond. He had come so far from that battlefield, from that moment when he ran through enemy fire to save a dying alien. He had not known she was a queen, but it would not have mattered. Every life was worth saving. That was what it meant to be human. The ground shook with another explosion. Jiho pressed his body flat against the broken wall and tried to catch his breath. Smoke filled the air around him. He could hear screaming in the distance, both human and alien voices mixed together in the chaos of battle. He was a medic, not a soldier. His job was to save lives, not take them. But today, on this dusty planet called Tau 7, everyone had to fight. The Threxian forces had attacked without warning. They wanted this world, and they did not care who stood in their way. Jiho looked around the corner. Bodies lay scattered across the battlefield. Some moved, crying for help. Others would never move again. His hands shook as he gripped his medical bag. He had to get to the wounded. That was his duty. A burst of energy fire cut through the smoke near his head. Jiho ducked back behind the wall. His heart pounded in his chest. Taking a deep breath, he checked his supplies. Bandages, medicine, tools. Everything a medic needed. Everything that felt useless against weapons that could burn through metal. Then he saw her. Across the open ground, maybe 30 meters away, a Valkyrie warrior lay behind a piece of broken equipment. The Valkyrie were Earth's allies in this war. They looked almost human, but taller, with pale blue skin and dark hair. This one wore armor like the others, but Jiho could see dark blood pooling beneath her. A lot of blood. She was dying. Jiho's training kicked in before his fear could stop him. He burst from cover and ran. His legs carried him across the battlefield, while explosions lit up the smoke around him. Energy bolts flew past him. One hit the ground so close that the heat burned his arm through his uniform. He did not stop. He reached the Valkyrie woman and dropped to his knees beside her. She looked at him with wide eyes, surprised. Her left arm was nearly severed, hanging by strips of torn flesh. Blood pumped from the wound with each heartbeat. She would be dead in minutes. "Stay still," Jiho said, even though he knew she probably could not understand him. The woman tried to speak, but her voice was weak. She pointed to a device on her belt. Some kind of Valkyrie medical tool, Jiho guessed. He grabbed it and tried to activate it. Nothing happened. The screen was dark, broken or out of power. "Okay, we do this the old way," Jiho muttered. He pulled his medical bag open and grabbed a tourniquet. It was simple human technology, just a band and a stick for twisting. The Valkyrie probably thought it was primitive. Right now, Jiho did not care what they thought. He wrapped the tourniquet high on her arm, above the terrible wound. Then he twisted it tight. The woman gasped in pain, but the blood flow began to slow. Jiho worked fast, packing the wound with treated gauze, wrapping it with pressure bandages. His hands moved with practiced skill. "You're going to be okay," he told her, though he was not sure if he believed it himself. The woman stared at him. Her eyes were strange, more golden than human eyes, but he could see the confusion in them, and something else. Respect, maybe. An explosion rocked the ground nearby. Jiho threw himself over the woman's body, protecting her. Debris rained down on his back. When the dust cleared, he looked up and saw 3 Threxian soldiers moving toward them. They had spotted him. Jiho reached for his sidearm. He was not a good shot, but he had to try. Before he could draw the weapon, the Valkyrie woman grabbed his arm with her good hand. She was strong, even wounded. She pulled a weapon from her belt and pressed it into his hands. "Use," she said in rough, broken human language. "Shoot." Jiho took the alien weapon. It was lighter than he expected. He aimed at the approaching Threxians and pulled the trigger. A bolt of blue energy shot out and hit the first soldier in the chest. The soldier fell. The woman pulled herself up to a sitting position, leaning against him. With her good arm, she aimed her own weapon and fired. Another Threxian went down. The third one ran for cover. For several minutes, they fought together. Jiho fired when she told him to, and she covered him when he needed to adjust her bandages. They worked as a team, a human medic and a wounded alien warrior, holding their ground against the enemy. Finally, Jiho heard the sound he had been waiting for. Human and Valkyrie aircraft screamed overhead. Reinforcements had arrived. The Threxians began to retreat. The woman lowered her weapon. She looked at Jiho, and for the first time, she smiled. It was a small smile, weak from blood loss, but it was genuine. "Thank you," she said carefully in human language. "You save life." "That's my job," Jiho replied, checking her bandages one more time. "What's your name?" The woman seemed to think for a moment. Then she said, "Hana. Call me Hana." "I'm Jiho. Can you walk?" She tried to stand but stumbled. Jiho caught her and supported her weight. Together, they made their way back toward the human lines. By the time they arrived, Valkyrie medical teams were landing. They rushed forward and took Hana from Jiho's arms. She looked back at him as they carried her away. She said something in her own language, words Jiho could not understand. Then she was gone, loaded onto a Valkyrie transport that lifted into the sky. Jiho stood there, covered in her blood and his own dirt, and watched the transport disappear. He did not know who she really was. He did not know that his simple act of kindness had just changed everything. He only knew that he had saved a life today. 2 days after the battle, Jiho was cleaning his medical equipment when 2 Valkyrie officers entered the human barracks. Every human soldier in the room immediately went quiet. Valkyrie officers rarely visited human areas, and when they did, it usually meant trouble. "Medic Jiho Park," one of them asked. His human language was perfect, without any accent. Jiho stood up straight. "Yes, sir." "Come with us, now." Jiho's stomach dropped. What had he done wrong? Maybe he had violated some Valkyrie custom when he helped that woman. Maybe touching her had been forbidden. He grabbed his jacket and followed the officers outside. They did not take him to the human command center. Instead, they led him to a landing pad where a sleek Valkyrie shuttle waited. Jiho's commanding officer, Captain Taeyong, stood nearby with a strange expression on his face. "Captain?" Jiho asked nervously. "What's happening?" "Just get on the shuttle, Jiho," Captain Taeyong said. His voice was tight. "Do exactly what they tell you. Be respectful. Very respectful." "But why?" "Go, that's an order." Jiho climbed aboard the shuttle, his mind racing. The Valkyrie officers sat across from him during the flight, but said nothing. They just watched him with unreadable expressions. The shuttle lifted off and flew up, through the atmosphere, and into space. Through the window, Jiho could see the massive Valkyrie command station in orbit above Tau 7. It was bigger than any human ship, a floating city of metal and light. The shuttle docked at one of the main ports. "Follow," the officer said. They walked through corridors filled with Valkyrie crew members. Everyone they passed stopped and stared at Jiho. Some bowed their heads. Others whispered to each other. Jiho felt like he was walking to his execution. Finally, they reached a large door guarded by 4 warriors in ceremonial armor. The door opened, and Jiho was pushed gently inside. The room was beautiful. Tall windows showed the stars outside. Elegant furniture filled the space. And standing in the center, wearing robes that marked her as someone important, was Hana. Except she did not look like the wounded soldier he had saved. Her arm was healed, probably by advanced Valkyrie medicine. Her dark hair was styled elaborately. She wore jewelry that glowed with soft light. And she stood with the bearing of someone used to command. "Medic Jiho Park," she said formally. "Hana?" Jiho said, confused. "You look different." A man stepped forward from the shadows. He was older, with scars on his face, and the bearing of a warrior. "You will address her properly. She is Queen Nari Velkaresh, ruler of the Valkyrie Empire." Jiho felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. Queen? But you said your name was Hana. I used a simple name, Queen Nari said. I was fighting alongside common soldiers. I did not want special treatment. It is our tradition. A ruler must know the battlefield personally. I didn't know, Jiho stammered. I'm sorry, You saved my life, Queen Nari interrupted. You violated your orders, risked your own life, and used your knowledge to stop my bleeding when our technology failed. For this, you have my gratitude. The older warrior spoke again. By Velkari law, anyone who saves the queen's life becomes life-bonded to her. You are now her sacred guardian, her shield, her honored protector. Jiho stared at them. I'm just a medic. You are more than that now, Queen Nari said. She walked closer to him. I know this is unexpected, but our laws are clear. The bond must be honored. Before Jiho could respond, the door opened again. A young woman rushed in, human, with short black hair and tired eyes. She wore a diplomatic uniform. Your Majesty, she said, bowing to Queen Nari. Then she turned to Jiho. And you must be Jiho. I'm Yuna Kim, diplomatic aide. I'm here to help you understand what's happening. Can you explain how I ended up as some kind of guardian to a queen? Jiho asked weakly. Yuna looked at him with sympathy. Welcome to politics. Come on, we need to talk. Queen Nari nodded. Daehyun will stay with you. He is my chief advisor. He will explain what your duties require. The older warrior, Daehyun, did not look happy about this situation. But he bowed to the queen and gestured for Jiho and Yuna to follow him to a smaller room. Once they were alone, Yuna let out a breath. Okay, so here's the situation. You accidentally became one of the most important people in the Velkari Empire. I just stopped her bleeding, Jiho protested. And that saved her life, Daehyun said. His voice was cold. The life bond is sacred. You will stay near the queen. You will protect her. You will advise her. This is not optional. But I don't know anything about being a guardian or advisor. Then you will learn, Daehyun said, quickly. Yuna pulled out a tablet. Listen, I know this is overwhelming, but it's also an incredible opportunity. The Valkyrie-human alliance is still new. Having a human this close to the queen could strengthen our relationship. Or it could be seen as an insult, Daehyun added. Many in the court believe humans are too primitive for such an honored position. They will test you. They will try to make you fail. There's something else, Yuna said quietly. There have been 3 assassination attempts on Queen Nari in the past 6 months. Someone wants her dead. And now you're part of her security. Jiho sat down heavily. This is insane. Yes, Daehyun agreed, but it is reality. The bonding ceremony happens tomorrow. After that, you are officially her life-bonded guardian. Until then, I suggest you prepare yourself. Prepare how? Jiho asked. Daehyun's expression softened slightly. You saved her life with primitive human methods when our advanced technology failed. Perhaps that is exactly what she needs. Someone who thinks differently. Someone who sees threats we might miss. Yuna nodded. Look, you're a medic. You're trained to observe, to notice details, to react quickly. Those skills matter here too. Jiho looked at both of them. He thought about Queen Nari fighting on the battlefield, disguised as a common soldier. He thought about how she had smiled at him when he saved her life. He thought about duty and honor, and all the things his training had taught him. Okay, he said finally. I'll do it. Tell me what I need to know. Daehyun nodded with approval. Good, we begin immediately. Outside the window, the stars shone bright and cold. Somewhere out there, enemies plotted in the darkness. And Jiho, a simple medic from Earth, had just stepped into a role that would test everything he was. The ceremony was tomorrow. His new life began tonight.